So KSI versus Alex Wassabi. Yes, this is not the usual Believe in Bruce attire. I'm out here in Turkey on holiday. So you got to give the channel for love, for my commitment. Make sure you subscribe, comment, and also give me a thumbs up. But it feels great to be back here, all right? KSI versus Logan Paul was where my channel, the Believe in Bruce channel, really took off. So it's like, you know, I'm quite excited, having looked through the head-to-head with Wade Plemon, is that the guy's name? To see what emotions are going on, what fighters are feeling, what, you know, KSI's feeling, what Alex Wassabi's feeling, but also to pick on some what we call the limbic system, the autonomous part of the brain, the stuff that we try to hide from each other, but verbally, non-verbally, it just comes out. And that's what we're going to be looking at as well. What words are the fighters using, as well as what the body language is telling us as well. We'll be looking at things like, why is KSI showing some signs of discomfort when Alex Wassabi says he is really ready?
I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited.
We'll also be looking at why KSI's talking about eating souls rather than crushing souls.
I got your soul, mine, mine.
There's also a few moments where Alex himself is looking anything but confident. Really interesting bit of what causes KSI to stutter, to panic. But is it all part of KSI's game plan to play the mental warfare game on Alex Wassabi?
What KSI is doing right now as mind games, which we've seen he's done before to get in the
So what I want to first focus on, okay, is emotional baseline. And we've got something to compare it to because it's not the first fight KSI's had and it's not the first fight Alex Wassabi's had either. What I've noticed though is KSI is well above his emotional baseline in comparison to what he was with Logan Paul. It reminds us of the KSI at that press conference where him and Joe Weller come head to head. But he's definitely got more energy there. He's definitely got more intent there. There's something that's residing within inside him that I'm unsure. I'm unsure if it's going to be helpful or unhelpful. Sometimes you can get too aroused. Sometimes you can get too up for it. Sometimes you can get too stressed. And that can ultimately impact your performance. But then you see Alex's baseline, and it's all the way through the interview. He seems very chilled. He seems very relaxed. He doesn't seem to get triggered. There's a few occasions, and again, keep watching the video and I'll show you. But he doesn't seem to get triggered as much as maybe KSI did in the Logan Paul fight. And I'm going to put it out there, you're like, I'm having to fight against my conscious bias here, okay? Of course I want KSI to win. Who doesn't want to see KSI versus Jake Paul? So I'm fighting against this. I've put my hands up and said I want KSI to win. But what I'm going to bring you here from a non-verbal communication perspective, from the neuroscience perspective, even the two fighters probably don't even know the thoughts and feelings that they were presenting within this interview. To try and keep it fair and balanced, but that's what we see all the way through. KSI, very dominant, very energetic, way more than I've ever seen him before. And again, that could come through a few reasons that I'll talk about later on in the video. And then Alex seems to be the one almost who is the B-side dancing partner, if you will. Now again, I don't know much about Alex Wassabi. I can only go off his emotional baseline within this video, but let's go into some of the things that I find really interesting that could give us an insight into, is KSI going to murder him because he's been training with killers? Or is Alex Wassabi playing a very, very clever game that may lull KSI into having that false sense of security, and that allows him to perform come fight night, which is the only time it really matters. Now, what I like about Alex, authenticity, okay, authenticity, is KSI asks him, you know, have you been knocked down? KSI is saying he's been training with killers, you know, he's got a broken nose, whatever it may be. Have you ever been knocked down? And without batting an eyelid, Alex has the confidence, the authenticity, that nice baseline to say, yeah, I've been knocked down. And that sort of throws JJ a little bit, all right? That throws him a little bit because, oh, that's interesting. Well, what's interesting? What's interesting about getting knocked down?
Okay, I got hit with a hard shot and I still came forward. I still came moving. Bro, I haven't been knocked down. Have you been knocked down, Alex, actually? Have you been knocked down? You have. Wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
But it's how not rattled Alex gets during this interview that I think could be really key when we talk about individual zone of optimized function, that sweet spot where you are. But when he says, did you get knocked down? You know, some fighters might keep that in. They might not want to share that. Alex has no problem with that reaction. We call it the ping and the pong. All right, so JJ has pinged something across. How does Alex handle that? Well, he actually handles that very well. Yes, I have. I got knocked down. And you see that in JJ. Oh, well, that's interesting. Now, this could, because there's a number of examples, this could directly correlate to how Alex could handle the pressure in the fight. Again, we don't know. We can just assume it's just inference, all right? It's just inference. But how he handles this when the two of them are together could be directly correlated, and there's a high probability it could, to if JJ puts him under the cosh, how will Alex handle the pressure come fight night? But take a look at it. Okay, very, very poignant, pertinent, you know, almost spear-like question, which he then offers authentically. Yes, I did. He opens himself up to be vulnerable. He's got the confidence to do that. Now, again, interestingly for me as well, so I've been on the boxing scene since I was 9 years old, and I'm a little bit older than 9 years old now, as the white beard may indicate. KSI's talking about he's been training with killers. Now, I don't, if anybody knows about Shoot Fighters Gym, all right, Shoot Fighters has been around for years. One of the primary gyms, one of the main gyms, but it's an MMA-based gym. So I've got no doubt that he's been training with killers, but my question is, has he been training with boxers? Yeah, has he been training with boxers? Because that's what he's going to do. And again, I hope he has been training with boxers. I said at the start, I want KSI to win. But just because you've been training with juggernauts, yeah, Wolverine, the Hulk, whoever else you've got, yeah, have you been training specifically enough?
That's interesting. That's very interesting. And I don't think you're sparring the people I'm sparring as well. Trust me, the people I'm sparring are killers. Killers. Okay, if you go look at shoe fights, bro, look at where I'm training.
It's interesting why he chose an MMA gym to go and train at rather than a pure boxing gym. All right, but this is what he's talking about. I've been training at Shoot Fighters. I've been training with killers. So KSI definitely believes he's got that confidence that he's been putting himself through the mill. He's been earning the right to brag. And with that earning that right to brag comes a level of confidence. And confidence usually, not all the time, okay, usually then gives a platform for high performance. Now again, we know, or if you've been around the Believe in Bruce channel for a while, a touch of the nose, the Pinocchio moment, undoubtedly, indubitably, it gives a sign of discomfort. So when Alex calmly says to JJ, I am prepared, you see JJ touch his nose. Now his nose, for those people about to jump on the comments and say, oh well, Believe in Bruce, he's just, he's got an itchy nose. No. You're uneducated, you're naive, shut up and listen to what I'm about to tell you. Okay, in that moment, JJ had a thought that made him uncomfortable enough to touch his nose. Now, admittedly, that might be, okay, I didn't realise Alex was going to be this calm. I didn't realise that he could handle this pressure. I didn't realise it could be a load of those negatives, but also it could be that he thinks Alex is full of the proverbial bullshit. Yeah. That's right, but we definitely see a sign of being uncomfortable. There's something there that JJ is uncomfortable enough that he touches his nose when Alex says that he is fully prepared to fight JJ come fight night.
Your response to all of that?
I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Now, there's a couple of times within the interview where JJ gets a little bit confused with himself. One I'm going to explain now. Or not confused, but maybe he's it's not common. It's not a mean average what he says. There's one that I'm going to explain later on in the video where he says something and then does the complete opposite. And when I explain it, he'll say, okay, I get what Believe in Bruce is saying here. But he's talking about eating. He's talking about eating Alex Wassabi's soul. Yeah.
Mine.
And he does this, which is a quirky way of orating his point, what his purpose is, what he's trying to achieve. Now, usually people say, I'm going to take your soul. I'm going to crush your soul. Now, could JJ be getting too aroused? Is he getting too up for this? Is he just enjoying the moment? Is he just, basking in the spotlight and, his thoughts and feelings are getting carried away and he's absolutely rinsing this moment for all he can? But to say I'm going to eat your soul,
Mine.
it's just not common. That's my point here, okay? Crush, yes. Take, yes. I'm going to eat your soul. And then with the and then with the beautiful, added sound effects as well.
Mine. Mine. Mine.
I just hope JJ isn't too up for this fight. This is what I'm praying for, okay? I hope JJ isn't too up for this fight. It would be great to have, UK versus US, JJ versus Jake Paul. But there's just a little bit here where I'm getting worried that he's not going to be able to deliver his best performance because he might be too aroused. He might be too up for it. He might be stressing himself out too much. He doesn't see Alex Wassabi as the threat. All of those things can be very detrimental. We've seen numerous examples when he talks about the rematch later on. AJ versus Ruiz, where AJ thought he was going to walk through Ruiz. Again, AJ has offered this himself. After the fight, well, this is why I think it went wrong. And that's my only concern here, is are we not going to get the best JJ because he's too up for it and he doesn't see the threat that Alex Wassabi can potentially possess?
I got your soul. Your soul, mine. Mine.
And again, another example of Alex's calm baseline is where Wade says, we've got all this energy from across the pond here. JJ is obviously up for it. He's, talking about murders and training with killers and all this beautiful stuff. Yeah, what I love for the build-up in a fight. What do you think about it? And just quite calmly answers, well, I'm just waiting for him to finish so I can talk.
Alex, you're seeing that energy across the pond there, and I'm looking at your face, and it kind of just looks like you're just kind of fed up with all of what KSI is bringing right now. What are you reading off this energy he's giving you?
I'm just waiting until he's done so I can talk.
He's not trying to be brash. He's not trying to get one over on him. He's not trying to, that ego or what we usually associate with a fight, and definitely what's playing with JJ. And again, the ego can be a reason why we win. The ego can be a reason why we don't give up. But what we're seeing is a very balanced Alex who says, he's rolling with it. JJ's leading and Alex is just responding when there's a space to respond. But he doesn't seem to get riled. He doesn't seem to get triggered. That could work both ways. Again, what do you think? Let me know below. Do you think that JJ is too aroused? Do you think that Alex is not up for it? What do you think's going on here? But all we can see is from the data that we've got is that when, Alex is asked the question, he simply responds in a calm way that would indicate nothing so far is triggering him. He's not getting stressed. He's not getting over-aroused. He's just there. He even says at one point, I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm grateful. Thank you. It's like, this dude could potentially date anyone's daughter and you'd be happy. But is this the ploy? Is he keeping this until fight night where there's just machine comes out again? I've got no idea. Haven't watched his last fight with Edgy. Yeah. But it's just interesting, the calmness of this guy. And there's a little bit where he's talking about, and he actually lulls JJ into the question. I believe it's a leading question. He knew where he wanted to take JJ. He says, you're obviously very confident. And JJ falls for, yes, I am. And then he starts rubbing his chin. So he's either over-exaggerating it here or he's got a general curiosity. If you think you're so great and if you think you are going to beat me in the way you say you're going to beat me, why the rematch clause? Why the rematch clause? Now, this is the first time, and then the 175 comes up a bit later on. Let's fight at 175 then if you're so confident. This is the first time where Alex has actually challenged JJ, all right? Where he's challenged him. But you definitely see the curiosity with that stroke of that limbic system, the hippocampus, the amygdala, the adrenal glands. All of this type of stuff is working, but he's definitely curious about why the rematch clause.
You sound pretty confident that you're going to win.
I'm very confident.
So why?
I always put my money where my mouth is. I always talk the talk and I walk the walk.
Yeah. So why did your team force me to put a rematch clause if I win?
So that wasn't me. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. Well, if it was up to me.
And then JJ fires back. Now, again, this is where it doesn't line up. When he said, hey, don't even try that. Don't even use that against me. And he says, don't try. And you watch his arm. He says, don't even try and left hook me with that. Yeah, don't try and left hook me with that. Now, again, I don't know JJ. But was he saying, don't try and left hook me with that? he's actually throwing his right hand. Again, I can't lie, the data's there. He's actually throwing the right hand. This is one of the things that I'm worried about. Is JJ too aroused that he's even getting his left and right mixed up? I can't lie, I don't want him to be too aroused. But the data doesn't lie, biology doesn't lie. He's clearly saying, don't try and hit me with that left hook. Boom, while throwing his right.
It's just standard. So don't try to left hook me with that.
Then we've got the first time where I believe JJ is rattled. Okay, he's rattled.
I mean, I'm
When they talk about the 175, and Alex says to him, okay, if you're comfortable, you're 176 now, let's go to 175. You see there's a pause, then there's a look down, and then the
in shape. Insane.
All right, let's switch the weight to 175 if it's not a big deal.
I mean, I'm.
That is not the reaction of someone who's calm in that particular moment there, that critical moment control. That's what I do. Teach athletes, people you see on TV, the corporate clients, critical moment control. What do you do when you're panicked? That moment there with the pause, the eyes going down, and then that global sensation forcing the
I mean, I'm.
and then he comes out with something. JJ is rattled there. And what does this prove? Well, it proves that he's human. It proves that he can be rattled. He proves that those energy levels there, he's got a head and a heart. Everybody's got a trigger. I have got a trigger, or triggers, you've got triggers. It's just about finding what buttons to press. And at that particular moment, again, we can't argue with the data, is Alex finds a button to press with JJ.
I mean,
And then the last bit that I want to talk about here is Wade sort of sums up and says, okay, so it's official, 175. And then as he starts to talk, you'll see that limbic system, that honest part of the brain kick in, where KSI JJ touches his nose. Again, it's a sign of discomfort. Did he feel like, bloody hell, Alex pulled me into that. I've reacted. I've agreed to 175, when actually it's in my favour to go a little bit above that. We don't know, but what we do know, without a shadow of a doubt, is that he was triggered at that moment. He wasn't comfortable enough reflecting on that conversation. Yeah, it's a bit like hindsight. And you'll all recognise this. If you have an argument with somebody and you feel that they've got one over on you, later you'll ponder that. I should have said this, I should have said that. I love to punch him. I would have loved to use these words instead. This is what we're seeing from JJ here. In that moment there, right there, when JJ's pondering what's just happened, you see that uncomfortable feeling. Like, has that ego, actually instead of saying, no, that's the contract, you signed the contract, I signed the contract, the weight stays the same. I'm not saying JJ can't go down to 175. I'm not saying JJ wouldn't be comfortable at 175 or confident at 175. But what I'm saying is, did Alex pull him out of his comfort zone? Did he shift that stress enough that JJ maybe said to something that the ego was driving, that reaction then gave?
Making it official, 175. Listen, Alex, I want to talk to you about this. KSI
rather than sticking to the logical side of it, which is what the contract already stipulates. And that for me is the biggest takeaway here, all right, is the reactions. JJ is ultra aroused. He's ultra up for it. He's hyper. He's competitive. He never loses. These are the narratives that JJ uses. And then you've got Alex, who's almost 180 degrees. He's happy to be there. He's grateful for the opportunity. He never gets flustered. He's very authentic with his feelings. Trying to extrapolate that to the fight. How does it go? All right, how does it go?
What KSI is doing right now as mind games, which we've seen he's done before to get in the. He's done before to get in the. He's done before to get in the.
Well, let's all be honest. Alex has been selected so that JJ, as he says, can knock the cobwebs off. Yeah, that Jake Paul fight, hopefully, is somewhere, fingers crossed, is somewhere down the line. But from an individual zone of optimized function, from a performance psychological angle, and you come with that analysis there, is that it will either be JJ shows up an absolute machine version of himself, or he arouses himself too much. He goes back to that swinging version. Yeah, he goes back to that swinging version. And that's one thing that I noticed that JJ was talking about a few times in that interview. People think I'm just swinging. People think I'm just swinging. Maybe it's JJ being the dog, being the fighter, being the scrapper, is actually JJ at his best. No one's really talking about that. So what if you swing? So what if you've got hard punches? So what if you're a dog? Did you win the fight? Yes, you did. I just hope him trying to adapt to prove these people wrong that he can box doesn't then open a gap that Alex Wassabi can then take advantage of. But two very different contrasting characters, yeah, two very different personalities. And all this, you know, they say styles make fights. This just binds together beautifully to have what could be an absolutely biblical fight. In fact, it's something I'm excited about. I might even do a watch-along. Yeah, I might even do a watch-along myself. I've never done one. I might give it a crack because, again, boxing is my thing. And obviously with the YouTube, the Believe in Bruce channel, it will make sense to do it as well. So who do I think's going to win? Do you know what? I'm going to have to watch a few more videos. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research because this one has just got so many tangibles and so many variables. I don't want to say something just yet. Yes, I want KSI to win because of the because of the Jake Paul fight. But who do I think I win? Oh, this is why it's going to be a cracker. Remember, if you've enjoyed the video, subscribe to the Believe in Bruce channel, give me a thumbs up, leave your comments below. But more important than any of this, believe in Bruce. Please remember to be kind to yourselves and each other.